Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with the National Weather Service. You're watching Alaska Weather with us on the 29th of May. Thanks for joining us. And as always, you can find out your local forecast information no matter what part of Alaska you're in by calling 1-800-472-0391. You can always find us online as well, and even for some low bandwidth phones and tablets, this is a decent option, weather.gov/Alaska. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll be able to find a low bandwidth option there from that page once you click on it. And if you can't find what you're looking for, whether it's something from the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center, the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit, tsunami.gov, or any of our weather forecast services from Fairbanks, Juneau, or Anchorage, I'm happy to serve you as best as I can. Just let me know with an email, david.snider@noaa.gov, and send me a picture of where you are in your part of Alaska. We'd love to show that sometime on our show. Here's a look at the breakup map as it stands. We're still focused on the North Slope now. Everything south of the Brooks Range is A-OK and flowing there and all the way open. But for the Colville, the Sag, and the Gubark, we are still slowly breaking up as we get very close to the coast there. Still some ice right along the coast, and the sea ice there just offshore is certainly present as well. We'll take a look at the sea ice map here in just a minute. But if you have some reports, one thing that we still have trouble with is knowing exactly how much ice is still left in some of these areas, especially when it's really foggy and cloudy. The satellites just don't see through all of that all the time as well as we'd like them to. So your reports make a really big difference. Let us know. Send me an email. Contact the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center on their website, or just give them a ring. They'd be happy to hear from you, and they'd love to know what it looks like on your part of the river there along the north coast, if you're anywhere in the region, that is, and can make it back to the phone. Here's a look at what's going on across the region for fire danger now. And as we get away from breakup, of course, we turn our attention to the drier parts of the season. And coming out of the snowmelt season, with warmer southerly winds developing across the region, we're going to be watching some areas, especially across the central and the eastern interior. We have a few spots right now that are just kind of nosed across that, what we call the high potential for fire danger there. Some of that's in the Yukon Valley and the areas around Denali and points northward into the Tanana Valley and the Copper River Basin, areas around the Susitna Valley. But most of them are really small pockets of drier grasses at this point. So the conditions are turning that way, but are they full on into fire season? Fire danger is widespread? No, not even close. But something that's always worth watching this time of the year. If you'd like to monitor fire weather conditions yourself, head to fire.ak.blm.gov. Here's a look at the visible satellite picture now, and you can see several swirls of low pressure, one of those just offshore of southern southeast outer coast, another across the Bering Sea. And for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, we have had a low in the Bering Sea. This is a little bit more typical of a fall pattern where we just have a steady southerly flow moving in. It's kept plenty of clouds across southwest and the west coast, south central, and southeast. Although southeast is getting a little bit more of a break today. There are a couple spots with a few showers out there, but it looks like by and large conditions will be trending at least toward a quieter day or so. You might see a little more fog tonight as a result of that quiet weather, but it doesn't look like it's going to rain too much as you get into tomorrow. Up north, you can see a slightly different texture to the clouds. Those bubbles, or those kind of scallopy looking clouds there across the central western interior all the way into western Canada, those are convective clouds, clouds that are rising up through the heat of the day, and some of those, of course, turning into showers and thunderstorms. We've been noticing some lightning since early this morning around North Wade at Chicken, and another batch of showers and thunderstorms developing here across the Kobuk and Noatak valleys into the upper Koyukuk and southward into the middle Tanana Valley. So certainly some active weather that got started fairly early in the day. Now a look further south and west shows these more smooth clouds feeding into the circulation we see here across the Bering Sea. This area is a little bit more likely just to produce regular old rainfall, stuff that you're used to across south and western Alaska through more parts of the year. And it doesn't look like there's a whole lot of cold air with this. In fact, drawing on a steady southerly flow is going to keep warming things up for many in southwest, the interior, south central, and eventually southeastern Alaska as we go through the remainder of the week. Today's weather shows that widely scattering of showers and thunderstorms across the interior. That's what that R with a little arrow at the end means. This is a kind of a thunderstorm symbol, and with the pointed arrow there, we're using that to indicate lightning. There's something you'll see on an aviation chart. Low pressure out across the west at 980 millibars is pushing that front towards St. Lawrence Island and the YK Delta. Areas of light rain ahead of that. A triple point part of low pressure here where the warm front front, the cold front, and the occlusion all occur. Can usually bring in some heavier rainfall there. Not a whole lot to look at, though, on the satellite picture at this point. Pockets of rain across southeast and across south central and Prince William Sound, parts of the Kenai Peninsula. And as we go through tonight and into tomorrow, you'll notice a better chance for some areas of fog across the north and eastern Gulf. Low pressure just offshore of Kodiak Island sits at 1,010 millibars as we go through the overnight period, and we may hold on to a chance for a shower or thunderstorm mainly across the upper Tanana and the upper Yukon valleys closer to the Alcan border as we go through the overnight period. Some areas of fog and flurries should be expected under that stratus and fog across the north slope, and you'll probably notice that sticking around today. More of that to come tonight and tomorrow. And low pressure is filling in across the Bering. That means it's getting weaker, and as that circulation weakens, we're going to lose our frontal boundary characteristics. And so instead of a colored purple line now, that was our occlusion, we're going to use a black dash line, which means that temperature change along that boundary is not there anymore. So the winds will shift, the humidity may shift just a little bit, but we're not going to see a big difference from the air in front to the air behind that boundary there, which is why we call it a front. As this next dashed line or trough of low pressure passes through, the winds again will shift. The pressure may go up and down, but we're not going to see a huge temperature difference as that passes over the central and western Aleutians. Instead, we'll probably stir up some rainfall, and the winds again may come up just a little bit more, but probably not much to write home about, maybe a gale or two. Wednesday's weather indicates another opportunity for showers and thunderstorms, mainly on the south-facing slopes of the Brooks Range, the upper Koyukuk, and into the upper Yukon Valley there, with low pressure forming just to the south and east of Arctic Village and north of Fort Yukon. Out across the open Gulf, low pressure sits at 1,010 millibars. We'll keep some fog across parts of southeast, mainly in the morning hours. Expect to see the sun in the afternoon. And out across the Alaska Peninsula into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, expect some showers to form, especially in the heat of the day. Out across the Bering, a 998 millibar low is pushing moisture far enough north into the colder part of our weather pattern that it wouldn't be a real surprise to see rain mixing with snow around St. Lawrence Island, around Shishmaref to Kivalina, and along the Chukchi coastline. And in some cases, even offshore, you might even run into just plain old snow, but a lot of that probably won't be forming over land. And a look out west shows another warm boundary working into the western Aleutians and the western Bering Sea. As we get into Thursday, that quickly turns into another occluded front. And if you think you saw this map already once, you probably did. That's what's happening right now, more or less. And we'll repeat the pattern as we go into the weekend. Exactly the same thing, but a steadier southerly flow for more parts of south central, southwest, and the interior, which means much warmer weather as we get into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, maybe even Sunday and Monday as well. Notice southeast, you're still enjoying some drier weather there. Let's see how long that lasts with that brief ridge of high pressure there. Could mean you start off with some more fog on Thursday morning. Let's take a look at temperatures for Wednesday morning now. A low to mid 40s for many across the interior. A mild start from Ambler to Beddoes all the way down to southwest, with temperatures there also in the upper 30s and lower 40s. Nome, you're looking at 38, 21 though. Fog and flurries for Barrow. Kaktovik probably close to the same. South central low to mid 40s for you, 44 in Kodiak, and lower to mid 40s for southeast. Catching a theme here. 39 degrees in St. Paul with a high of 42 on Wednesday. In the afternoon in the interior, look at this, Fort Yukon nearly 70 degrees, mid 60s for Fairbanks, Eagle and Northway not far behind. As you get into south central, lower to mid 50s for many, approaching 60 around Talkeetna. Prince William Sound should see temperatures in the 50s. Nearly 60 degrees with sunshine in southeast. Looks like a wonderful Wednesday, whether you're just getting off the cruise ship or you just happen to sit on the front grass. It looks like a beautiful day there. Upper 40s and lower 50s for many around Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula, Cold Bay included, 44 in Nunivak Island, and 32 in Shishmaref. Overnight lows on Thursday morning. 30s and 40s for many in the interior, fairly mild for the upper Yukon Valley, 20s for the North Slope, southeast, closer to 40, mid-40s in fact around Ketchikan and Annette, 30s and 40s for south central, Kodiak Island 45, Dutch Harbor and Alaska about 40 degrees, and highs on Thursday still warming up, especially in the interior.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to aviation weather now. IFR will start our morning across the northern Gulf Coast. May even be some patchy fog in some areas around south central, maybe southwest. Out across the west, a low in the Bering Sea, of course, is keeping low clouds and areas of poor visibility possible across the northern Bering. And you can see widespread IFR across the North Slope and hit and miss across the morning around the misty fjords and parts of the Clarence Strait. As we get into the afternoon, the interior should be fine with the exception of convection. We'll watch for widely scattered showers and thunderstorms all along the south-facing slopes of the Brooks Range up into the Noatak and Kobuk valleys, and also into the Tanana Valley, the middle Yukon, and into the upper end of the Tanana Valley, with some improvements noted across southeast. You'll see MVFR lingering around the misty fjords, especially the higher terrain. MVFR for most of the Gulf, with exceptions of IFR into the western Alaska range, just east of Lake Iliamna, all the way up through Lake Clark, perhaps almost to Rainy Pass, and then out through the Shelikof Strait region, just on the northern end of that, and then into the northern Gulf over the Barents. Out across the northern Bering Sea and St. Matthew, watch for IFR conditions there, and also out in the western chain. As we get into Thursday, you can see how that's spreading eastward now, the next wave of warm and wet weather moving eastward, and then hit and miss along the Alaska Peninsula, still along the Alaska Range, parts of the eastern Kenai Peninsula, and hit and miss across the central and eastern Gulf just offshore of places like Sitka. You'll wake up to IFR conditions Thursday morning. May even still have a little bit of convection across the upper Yukon Valley, and certainly we're looking at IFR across the North Slope again by Thursday morning. Widespread convection again across the central and eastern interior for your Thursday afternoon. IFR lingers across the North Slope, increases across the central and western Bering Sea, still across the north and especially the north coastlines of St. Lawrence Island. And we're watching for mainly MVFR across the Gulf Coast, parts of Homer into Seward and northern and eastern sections of Prince William Sound, and IFR out across the open waters of the Gulf for your Thursday afternoon. Here's your pass conditions for tomorrow. AKwx Pass looking for VFR. Not too bad there. Do watch for some afternoon showers and thunderstorms, especially in the south-facing slopes. That'll go for Adigan Pass as well. Lake Clark and Merrill Pass tomorrow look to be mainly IFR through most of the day, so might want to have to consider a different way to go, or maybe put off your plans for at least a day there. Rainy Pass looking to see some improvement, so if you can take the northern route, you might be okay sneaking through Rainy Pass if things improve just a bit more. Windy Pass also looking at IFR conditions to start the day. MVFR probably by the afternoon. You'll have a better chance seeing MVFR in Windy Pass than I think down in Rainy Pass, and you know that better than I do. Isabel Pass looking at IFR conditions to start, and then some improvement throughout the day. Again, you'll have better luck in Isabel Pass than Windy Pass than in Rainy Pass. So you can see as you move further east, things do improve. As you look at Mentasta Pass, things look pretty good. Watch for afternoon convection, mainly on the Yukon side of the range there. Tanita Pass looking to hold in the marginal range for most of your Wednesday. And Portage Pass looks to lean over toward IFR as the day goes on, especially for the Prince William Sound side. So keep that in mind. Looks to be a lot worse on Prince William Sound side than on the Cook Inlet side. And Chilkoot and White Pass probably see some improvements to VFR by the end of your afternoon. Here's freezing levels, and what a big difference than just a couple weeks ago. You can see the elevated warmth here across the North Slope and into the western Canadian interior, anywhere from about 4,000 to 6,000 feet for many locations. That elevated warmth really making a big difference in surface temperatures too. The overall weather pattern supporting a pretty toasty temps there. Just in a matter of weeks, we're back in the 60s and 70s. Across the south and the west coast, you'll notice anywhere from 4 to about 6, even 8,000 foot levels there out across the central and western Gulf, spreading west. Some cooler air takes shape. Levels across Adak, Atka, Dutch Harbor, and Unalaska holding around 4,000 feet in Nikiski as well. Kodiak Island close to the 4,000 foot level there for your Wednesday morning. Icing potential in the vicinity of any thunderstorm activity and convection. We have to say there is certainly a severe risk, though very isolated. Be careful and watch for growing towers. Out across the west coast into parts of the western interior and the Gulf Coast, just offshore of southeast, levels are generally about 7,000 feet and higher for isolated moderate. You get a little bit higher still around the eastern chain and parts of the extreme southern Alaska Peninsula. Again, around 9,000 feet there for your Wednesday morning. Here's the jet stream, and what a mess. This still is a very active pattern. Waves of low pressure lining up here. The main instigator is a low pressure system in the Bering Sea that is keeping flow pretty active across a large part of the Gulf at 9,000 feet. Westerly flow moving across the Gulf, light southerlies for southeast and southerlies for the west coast. Not a big change here at 3,000 feet. Winds are pretty light in just about all areas. So turbulence, a very small area out in the west, below 4,000 feet from Kiska to Attu for your Wednesday morning. Back with the rest of your Marines in a moment. Hello again, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with the National Weather Service for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. And joining us again, talking about the augmented reality sandbox, is Eric Stevens from GINA, the Geographic Information Network of Alaska. And he's actually talking about a project from AKwx, which is the experimental program to stimulate competitive research. A lot of acronyms, but some really fun stuff today, right, Eric?
You bet. We've got a learning tool that is a tool that's fun to use, and it really has a relevance to actually daily lives of anyone who goes outside and sees lumpy topography in Alaska. We've got a lot of mountains and such. You know, when I was younger and go on your first hike in the hills, say, you're given, maybe you're in the Boy Scouts or you get at the kiosk at the trailhead, a topographic map, a flat piece of paper with all these lines on it, bullseyes, long lines that curve back on themselves, say, perhaps things that look like this. A quadrangle or a topographic map. We've got here just to illustrate a couple of examples near Denali. Alaska has so much topography, so many mountains. And what are all these lines that we see? It can be tough to know what this means the first time you look at it. What we've got, all these lines represent lines of where the elevation of the topography goes through a certain level above sea level, say that this line represents where the mountains have gone from below 1,000 feet, mean sea level, up through 1,000 feet and above. That's your 1,000-foot contour. And when the mountain keeps going up, you're up to 1,200 feet, 1,400 feet, and so on. And that's how you get this little bullseye around the peak of a mountain.
Kind of makes layered slices, right?
Kind of like layered slices. Nice way to look at that. And when you see the lines are closer together, you're going up more steeply. If the mountain rises more slowly, it takes you longer in horizontal space to go through those different vertical increments. So
that is really hard to visualize.
Right. Imagine you're looking at a 2D piece of paper, two-dimensional piece of paper, but you're trying to understand what the three-dimensional world looks like. Well, enter the augmented reality sandbox. Yes, what is that? It is right here. We have the sandbox with us today, Sandbox 2.0, portable version. Built up at University of Alaska Fairbanks. And we've got a couple of folks helping out today.
Let's see, Alana Valaji, and she's a mechanical engineering student from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. If you want to give us a thumbs up there, Alana, thanks for helping us out today. And Courtney Breest, she's the outreach coordinator from AKwx, also helping us out today. Thanks, Courtney.
And this tool here has a Microsoft Kinect to sense the level of sand in this sandbox. And then the Kinect feeds its information into a computer that then sends a signal to a projector to draw the appropriate topographic lines on this topography. The fun thing about this, as we can see here, is that the sandbox and its Kinect and its projector, they all work as a team. So here we've got a mountain in the middle of the sandbox. What if we took down the mountain to some degree? Watch as the software responds and redraws the topography.
Kind of a caldera forming there.
There you go, And what's fun about the sandbox too is it knows that gravity flows downhill, and we've got some water that's actually down in the lowest elevations. And what's happening now is we're making it rain a little bit. We'll fill up rain into that elevated lake bed, that caldera, as you said. And so now water is pooled up there. And what if you gouged out an outlet channel?
Glacial dam release.
There you go. The water flows out. What we're seeing here is a tool that allows people to touch and connect, Microsoft Connect, RRR, to connect two-dimensional topographic maps like what we have here, these flat things on a piece of paper, to the real three-dimensional world. I think this sandbox's real particular application as a learning tool to young people is, what does a two-dimensional map mean when it's trying to represent the three-dimensional world? This sandbox is kind of both at once. It's actually three-dimensional, lumpy topography there, the sand, but it's got these lines drawn on the three-dimensional sand that would be on a two-dimensional piece of paper.
Wow, that is a huge leap from the learning that we experienced when we were younger to how children and even adults are visualizing in these new forms of technology. Allows that to kind of reshape their thinking and visualize this in a very useful and absolutely hands-on way. It's amazing.
It's a hands-on tool, and
it's hard for me to sit here and not go play with that.
Well, that's what happened at GINA, up at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks, when the first model was being made, the prototype with plywood and such. We had professional adult professor types had heard about this, and they
Yeah.
came by because they wanted to see how it worked.
Okay.
And everyone becomes that idealistic, wonder-filled youngster.
Sure.
And you just can't help but play with that, and to see how it reacts in time, and
Right.
it's a dynamic learning tool, and it
Dynamic,
responds.
That's exactly the word.
And
Yeah.
you know, you wonder what applicabilities beyond a teaching
Right.
tool for
Where does it
topography
go?
can it have? You can see how in Alaska we have inundation mapping is an issue. If you had water slosh inland, say in a coastal flooding event
Right.
on the western coast of Alaska or the Arctic coast, you could see this. The concept is illustrated here as an introductory learning method. I think this is a potentially good outreach tool for all of us in Alaska.
Okay, so not only just a topographical sense, a mapping sense, maybe something that leads into understanding of how geographic information systems work with GIS, but also geology, if we wanted to get into kind of the formations and the bigger land masses and the representation of the 2D map. We could go into hydrology, which is very important in Alaska, of course. And even just understanding the weather sense. Mounding up a big pile of sand could be that Arctic high pressure system sitting on top of Fairbanks, and the voids would be low pressure systems. This can go a lot of different directions.
Yes, exactly. It's not just landforms, but pressure has contours of high pressure and low pressure. And I wish I had had this kind of a learning tool when I was taking
kidding.
Meteorology 101 back 25 years ago.
wow.
Would have been helpful, I think.
Probably would have gotten a better grade. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for coming by, Eric, and Alana and Courtney. Thank you so much for your help there in the sandbox. We are going to play in the sandbox a little bit more coming up tomorrow on our next edition of Alaska Weather Facts. We hope you join us for that. In the meantime, make sure you go to alaska.edu/EPSCOR. That's alaska.edu. EPSCOR to learn more information about what we're doing with this augmented reality sandbox around Alaska. We'll see you next time on Alaska Weather Facts.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Time for a quick check of your sea ice edge. You'll notice there's still some higher concentrations of ice east of Utqiagvik and Barrow, all the way toward Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay, and Kaktovik. After that, you can see the marginal ice zone is a little bit closer to shore, but a lot of this, once again, is the thicker ice pack, the multi-year ice just offshore. Some of that will continue to move from east to west into the Chukchi. But in the Chukchi, there's plenty of open water here. You'll notice all the way north of the Bering Strait to north of Point Hope. Plenty of open water. Just to the west, though, there still is considerable high concentrations of ice there closer to the Russian side. Anytime you want to take a look at the ice, do so at weather.gov/Anchorage/ice for an interactive map that you can zoom around and save links from, and learn a whole lot more about what's going on across the Arctic as we move through the summer season. Here's a look at southeast now. Look for fair skies and small seas, it looks like, and with that comes the risk for some fog as we start up the next couple mornings there. In the meantime, a light southerly breeze in the Lynn Canal, Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait, and all the way down the outer coast. A little bit more of a northwesterly push coming through, but that's 10 knots there with 5 to 6 foot seas on Wednesday. And really very little change save for the direction there. It looks like on Thursday, light winds from the south in the Lynn Canal, a northwesterly flow for Stevens Passage and Clarence Strait, and then south and southeasterlies coming up the outer coast. As we get into Thursday, light easterly winds outside of Yakutat, Icy Cape, and Cape Fairweather with a 6 foot sea there on Thursday. For South Central on Wednesday, light winds inside and outside of Prince William Sound. 2 foot seas on the inside, 5 foot seas, or 6 foot seas, I should say, outside of Montague Island and Hitchinbrook entrance. As you get closer to the western Gulf, that's more of an easterly flow, 15 knots with a 5 to 6 foot sea. Light winds coming down Cook Inlet. And west of the Barrens, an easterly flow outside there of Kashamak Bay as well. 4 foot seas expected on Wednesday. Smaller seas as you get into Thursday. Northeasterlies only 1 to 2 feet there coming through the Cook Inlet region. Northeasterlies also working through the north and western Gulf and holding on to those small seas and fair skies and well, probably a light northeasterly wind, 10 knots inside of Prince William Sound, safe for some afternoon rainfall, of course. Here's a look at southwest now. Inside of Bristol Bay, a south wind, 15 knots with a 5 foot sea, 11 foot seas down the coast, a stronger southerly flow there closer to that area of low pressure further out in the Bering. Notice that south and westerly flow starts to get a little more disorganized here as that front is working its way north and east. So as that falls apart, you're going to see winds changing around a little bit around Kodiak Island, but still not too bad. 3 to 9 foot seas there with winds changing throughout the day. Northwesterlies becoming northeasterly as you get into Kodiak Island on Thursday, 10 to 15 knots with 3 to 5 foot seas in the region. More of a westerly flow behind that wind shift, anywhere from 20 to 25 knots, looking for 7 foot seas there behind that boundary on Thursday with slightly higher seas closer to the coast. Now for the Aleutians, west and southwesterly flow by and large for most of the region. You're looking at about 20 to 25 knots and 9 to 12 foot seas in many areas for the central and eastern chain, 8 to 9 foot seas out in the west, a west and southwesterly flow there on Wednesday. And you can see the higher seas located mainly offshore. Here's the Pribilofs there for reference, and everything really is below about 9 to 10 feet, so not too bad. There will be some brief gales, it looks like, in the region tonight into early tomorrow morning, and then the winds start to pick up a little bit more out in the west as that next boundary moves in. Otherwise, 20 to 25 knots in most areas with 7 to 9 foot seas out in the west, so southerlies picking up west of Kiska to 30 knots with a 10 foot sea on Thursday. For the west coast, southerlies there 20 to 25 knots, 8 to 14 foot seas expected around the Pribilof. Some of our highest seas showing there. Southeasterlies inside of Norton Sound, 15 knots with a 3 foot sea. Anywhere from 10 to 20 knots in the region on Thursday. An onshore flow south of Hooper Bay toward the Kuskokwim Delta, westerlies around the Pribilofs, 20 knots with a 9 foot sea there. North of Nunivak Island, 10 knots with a 5 foot sea. And across the North Slope, easterlies over the ice, 10 to 20 knots. Around the Chukchi coast, 2 to 4 foot seas on that offshore wind, 10 to 15 knots. For Thursday, light winds in most areas in the Chukchi and a northeasterly onshore flow over the ice, only 10 knots. The Beaufort Seacoast as we go through your Thursday. A quick recap of our weather in Alaska tonight, tomorrow, and into Thursday. A low pressure system in the Gulf will bring rainfall into southwest. Watch for a few showers and thunderstorms tonight across the interior, and then diminishing to just a few by early morning hours. Fog in southeast, rainfall for Prince William Sound and Kodiak Island. Showers in the region there tomorrow. For southeast, morning fog and probably a very nice day with a mainly sunny sky and a much warmer weather pattern as well. Showers widely scattered across the interior again as we head into Thursday, and showers mainly in the west. Thanks for watching Alaska Weather. See you tomorrow.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.